Model Y introduction in China, a short burn special. We also take a look at the numeric implications and impact on the rest of Tesla by the introduction of the Model Y today. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. As you can see today, behind me is the Tyson's Corner in McLean, Virginia, Tesla facility. We're gonna, at the end of the show, take a tour and allow you guys to see where we're at currently. And you can take a look at this against a show we did maybe 2 weeks ago, so you can see the difference in the number of vehicles available. Wanted to thank our Patreon supporters as well as our subscribers. If you enjoy the show, please take time to subscribe and like. So what's happening today, as you know, is it's the 7th of January 2020. Today Elon Musk flew to China to do an introduction of the Model 3 to new owners, but he also took time to introduce the Model Y today as well. And so we wanted to sort of review some general points on this, number one, and then number two, we'll take a look at some strange doings in China afterwards. So the basic corporate information is that Model Y is being introduced in China today, and as you know, it's more expensive, even on the low end, than the Model 3 by, we think, about $5,000. So it's a strange situation right now because we actually forecasted that there are about 100,000 reservations for the low-end Model 3, which is now $42,000 in China. And at the current run rate, the capability of Tesla to produce with only one shift at 3,000 cars a week is about 87,000 cars a year. So in theory, without the Model Y, there's already a one-year waiting list to actually purchase that vehicle. So the next issue that pops up then is you introduce the Model Y, and that's great that that's been done, but the problem that pops up is that if you already have a shortage of cars that have people waiting for a year, why come out with the new car where in theory you might have people swap between the two cars because they can get a Y now. So in theory, you still have a year-long waiting list. It's just now you have two cars to choose from as you wait a year. So we thought this was very strange on the part of Tesla to make this move, because it complicates the process of getting quality out if you're trying to do two different vehicles at the same time running down the line. Now, there's been discussion of the fact that they're actually going to build a separate line so that they can relief to Model Ys to the other space. But based on how the numbers should work, we're actually expecting it to be about 59% of the vehicles should be Model Ys. I think you actually saw one of the managers drive by just now in the white car you see right behind me. But basically, what's happening right now is that, there's already a year-long waiting list. And with the marginal utility that you get out of an SUV versus a sedan, not only has the waiting list gotten longer, but it's gotten more, I want to say, more intense, because folks that may not have wanted the Model 3 previously now want to get into a Y. And so this is going to put pressure on competitors of all types to get to market quickly. Otherwise, they're going to be out of luck as Tesla takes over huge amounts of market share. The next thing we wanted to look at is a concept that was shared by Tesla executive that's called the usable market. So the concept behind it is that the lower the price of the car, the size of the usable market grows. So when Tesla was doing things in China a year ago, the lowest end Model S was available at call it $80,000. With all the taxes and tariffs, it was about $130,000, and the X is up at about 150K, everything done. So now that we're entering the country with no tariffs, no taxes, the fact that folks can get a hold of the 3 for 42 and the Y for 40, call it 47, 48, means that the usable market has gone from about 100,000 people per year, maybe 150,000 people, to potentially a 3 million person market, if not more. You know, it could be greater than that, more like 5 million possibly, based on the fact that in China you have to wait 5 years to get the license to put an ICE vehicle on the streets. Plus there are a bunch of fees involved in the process, the Chinese trying to force people to transition over. So we're in an interesting circumstance right now where you have 2 vehicles from Tesla that are both in short supply, and I believe that the low-end numbers of 50,000 vehicles for the whole year that have been presented by certain analysts in China is totally off. We think that Tesla will sell everything that they can make. The low end of the estimate of what that is about 200,000 vehicles. And the high end, which is what we're expecting, is about 500,000 vehicles all total, because you have to add the cars being shipped from the US to China as well as the cars that are being manufactured. So those numbers right now are at about 250. The one thing that we could say is that it looks like once it's seen how big this backlog is now that Model Y has come on the scene, we actually think that this means that Tesla / Elon Musk is angling for another factory in China. So what that, I believe, means then is that we're going to see Tesla, you know, moving forward with either a large expansion of the current facility, or more likely a second facility elsewhere that's being produced. So we look forward to what the answer to is. We don't know what the answer is yet, but as soon as we know, we will update you on that. The next thing we wanted to review before ducking out to take a look around the service facility in our sort of sneak around plan is the fact that there have been a bunch of strange developments in China that we thought were noteworthy now because they don't seem like a big deal, but as you go down the road, I think we may come back and say, well, what happened there? And it sort of blends in terms of issues that you might see. The first one you'll notice is that if you go to the Fremont factory, it's a white building with black letters. If you go to China, it's a black building with white letters. So we don't know why that is, but it's that's kind of strange. The second issue that comes up is what we call the info flow not from Elon that's been going on. So what this is about is the fact that at the main factory, like right now, we're at a service facility. If any of the workers speak to us right now, they have a high chance that they'll be seen by corporate and they get fired. So we tend to, when we do our show, to find a spot not too far away that allows us to take in the facility, but not on premises, because we don't want folks to get in trouble and get fired. The flip side of that, in China, we've had multiple executives making comments, and some of them sort of off, and corporate sort of correcting them. But we're kind of surprised, because if that happened in the US, there would definitely be some firings there. Another strange item that we wanted to highlight is that there's a new set of videos that Tesla released of the inside of the factory. And one big change we noticed based on video that was available about 4 weeks ago is that as part of the safety process, there's what are called, there's yellow paint in terms of places you don't want to stand, or just in general, factories have identifying markers on a safety basis for workers. If you go to the Fremont factory / the Gigafactory in Nevada, you'll notice that there's no yellow paint on the floor or yellow accents for safety. Tesla operates, wow, man. the V8 inside of the Audi 3 just made an incredible roar going by. It sounded really cool. So the comment / statement that I wanted to make is that Elon hates yellow, so there'll be no yellow Teslas produced by the factory. If you want one, you have to wrap it yourself. There's no yellow paint on the floor of any of the US production facilities or service facilities like the one behind me. If it ain't red, if it ain't white, it's not getting in the building. China actually put yellow paint in certain locations in the factory, and the update is that those areas have been repainted red to get rid of the yellow. So one of the things that is a theory of management is if you go into a factory and there's a light bulb out, you either say, oh, there's a light bulb out, let me just fix that light bulb. The other way to put it is to say, oh, there's a light bulb out, I think we've got a maintenance problem. So we don't know what the answer to that one is, but there are all these little strange pointers. The last strange pointer I wanted to note is this whole introduction of vehicle thing is kind of crazy. First, we got the announcement Tesla would be starting to sell vehicles on the 30th of December. Then we come to find out they didn't sell any vehicles to non-workers, and only 15 workers out of 3,500 actually purchased a vehicle. That was even strange that, you know, maybe the management team might have just all decided to purchase the car or something like that is what we expected. So maybe 30 to 50 people buying cars would kind of make sense based on how salaries might work in the factory. So that was a strange one. And then there's all these photos inside the factory and nobody's getting a hold of these cars except for employees, likely who helped build it. So that whole thing was strange. So now we have our second introduction, this time with cars going to non-workers. Makes a lot more sense, and I think, you know, it's a fit. But we just think that those series of facts is a very strange development, given that how things are organized in the US is nothing like that, where if they announce that the cars are available, they're going to be sold. The one last piece of information, and why we call this show a short burn, is the fact that while the Model Y was introduced in China, along with the other cars starting to be sold, you know, we actually had an announcement that the true sales wouldn't start until after the 25th of January. That is obviously not the case because they're starting now, but by starting now, you also have the potential of the vehicles that are already sitting in the service facilities to be sold, and we start building sales volume heading into the next earnings announcement, as well as, you know, earnings announcement related to the next quarter, not quarter 4. So, you know, the more time you have to build and sell those vehicles, the less inventory you have to carry and storage, etc. And so it's just another sort of data point that's lurking out there. So we're assessing this as a short burn because you can introduce information in a way that makes it a smooth transition on pricing, or you can introduce information in a way that sort of jerks the prices of the vehicles around, or jerks the stock price around. And I'm changing orientation because the sun is starting to hit here. So in essence, what we're seeing now is there's a transition that's going on, and the transition is that instead of delivering news in a way that doesn't cause sudden movements in the stock to occur, Elon seems to be deliberately delivering information in a way that causes sudden movement to the stock. And anytime you have a sudden movement, you have a lot of people that have to react, especially people who are short the stock, because if that movement is in the positive direction for Tesla, you now are in a situation where there's a whole bunch of people that are screwed in that whole deal. So we're at the point in the show right now where we're going to close out by sort of walking around the facility. But one of the weird things that we're noticing is that if you look, the sun is sort of screwing us there, but in general, the place is picked clean. There aren't any cars to really show. So it really shows that there's demand and people are enjoying their vehicles that they're not. I have to admit that I didn't go on the service vehicle side to see how many cars are stacked over there. But after checking it about 50 times over the last year and a half, 2 years, we typically have a stack up of about 60 to 70 vehicles there. And if that number is dramatically different, we'll let you know. But that's kind of the what we're looking at there. So, at any rate, we think it's a huge day. China is going to be a lot bigger in the sales volume than the rest of the world combined. And we're excited to hear that the Model Y is here. We're also excited to hear the stock is already up $6 pre-market here in the United States. So there's a lot of sort of good, positive momentum news going on Tesla. And Elon is keeping everything close to his vest because guess what? You don't get any shorts getting burned if the information flow is nice and smooth and anticipatory. The more powerful it is, impactful at one time, the more painful it is for the shorts. And I really think that's what's going on here, is how many people can he burn as the stock price rises. At any rate, wanted to thank all of you for joining us today. We're not in studio ideal conditions here, and the sun is starting to play havoc on my process, which is to sort of keep the store in focus, etc. But we look forward to any and all comments. Please take time to like and subscribe. Don't forget 25 leg lifts per leg to strengthen the quad muscles on a daily basis. Also, don't go to bed within 2 hours of eating, preferably 4, to let the food digest. Also wanted to encourage you to consider our 5-2 diet or some other form of fasting as a way to improve health. At any rate, this is Greg for Teslafaninsight, and like I said, we have very few vehicles right now that are on display, so there's kind of not a lot to see, especially with the sun making it difficult for us to show what's here. But thanks once again for joining us. Have a great day. Bye for now. Tschüss, German, au revoir, French, Lehitrot, Hebrew, Khoda Hafez, Farsi, Ni hao ma, hello in Chinese, Zdravstvuyte, hello in Russian, Hedge do, Swedish, do widzenia. And at any rate, in Jamaica we say, no respect, walk good man. Thanks for joining us, and we look forward to your comments today. Bye for now.